G'day everyone. Today I'm making biltong. So I'm just going to show you the ingredients I'm going to use. So first I'm going to use around just over 1 kilo of corned beef because it's cheap and it's just beef. Some ground black pepper, apple cider vinegar. This is ground coriander. I've actually just ground that using my mortar and pestle, but you don't have to do that. You can actually just buy it store-bought. And I'm using Himalayan pink table salt because I think these ingredients make the best biltong. I also might throw in a little bit of some cumin. Anyway, just to give it a little bit more flavouring, but that's just my personal preference. I've got a bowl to put the meat in, cutting board to cut the meat up, and my extra sharp knife to slice the meat. So yeah, I'll start doing that and I'll show you how we go with that in a minute. So I've been cutting the fat off the meat. There's quite a bit of fat there. I've been trying to remove it without cutting the meat off, so I've lost a little bit of meat there, but that's alright. So the reason I'm cutting the fat off is because once the jerky or biltong is made, the fat will actually give it a sort of a waxy taste, and the texture is not very nice. It's very hard and tough to bite on. So by cutting the fat off, I'm actually improving the quality of the product at the end. I've been cutting the meat. As you can see here, I've cut about 1/2 inch, maybe 1 inch in thickness. And I'm in the process of cutting this one here, so I'll just show you how I do that. There you can see that's cut now. There's still a little bit of fat on there, but that's alright. We can't get rid of all the fat. And I'll just do that for the whole chunk of meat, and then I'll be slicing this way to make thin slices for actual drying. Cutting the meat into the strips for drying. So you just cut that down. It doesn't have to be exact, but I try and cut it about so thick. That's about 1 centimetre. Try and keep the same thickness all the way down. So there's my strip. So that'll dry it very thinly, so maybe 1/4 of the size of that, so it's going to be almost paper thin in some sections. But that will dry very quickly and it'll be very easy to eat. So you just go through all the meat and you just cut it thinly down. And as I said, it doesn't have to be exact, so you can make it thicker in some sections by accident and thinner in others. So this has got a little bit of thickness there, but it doesn't matter, it's still going to end up the same. This bit's got some weird hangy bits off, but that's alright, I'll leave that, and I'll just trim this little bit here. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Doesn't have to be exact. You just go through all the meat and do that. So now the meat's all cut, so I'm going to just drench the meat in this bowl of vinegar. Just put it in there, slosh it around for a minute, and it's coated in vinegar, and I just put it on this plate for a moment just to sit. Now you can actually let the meat sit in vinegar overnight or for a couple of hours or 5 minutes or whatever you want, but with this process I'm just going for a quick biltong. So I'm just doing a quick coating of vinegar and Once I've done all the meat, I will start to season the meat. So the meat's cut, covered in vinegar. I'm going to put it on this cutting board here, and I'm going to add a pinch of salt to cover both sides of the meat. So just a light dusting on one side and a light dusting on the other. That's about enough. You don't want to add too much salt because it will make it taste terrible. It'll be really salty and you won't want to eat it. My kids don't like it when it's extra salty, so just a light dusting of salt, and that's going to bring the moisture out of the meat. So you just keep going through the meat like that. Yep. And once you've got the salt on, you want to start adding the other spices. So I like to have about a few on the tray here, sort of put them together, and then I just a light dusting of pepper and a light dusting of coriander. Oh. Well, actually I really like my coriander, so maybe a little bit more than a light dusting. Just rub it in a little bit and then you flip them over. And you can see the moisture is really starting to come out there from the salting. And again, light dusting of pepper. Just get it all over it. And then the coriander. Make sure the coriander's all over it because it will really give it a really good taste. And once that's done, you just put it in the bowl. It's going to sit in there and just soak up the flavorings and lose some of the moisture. And I like to do that, let it stay there overnight. And let's just go through the rest of the meat. Meat's all done now. It's all I've stacked it up in here. It's all flavored, salted, vinegared, cut. Everything's done. Now we have to wait for a day. Now nowadays we can put this in the fridge to let it sit there for a day, but traditionally they would have hung this from a tree or put it somewhere out of the way of insects or animals. So we can put this in the fridge now, put it in there for about a day or 12 hours or so, and just let the salt draw the moisture out of the meat and the flavour to permeate the meat as well. Okay, so I'll put that in the fridge. The meat has been drying for 24 hours now, so if you can see that, it's become a lot drier, or less moisture is on that. So the meat is ready to be hung. So I'm going to hang it in this dryer here that I've built so that I can dry the meat outside. Although if I wanted to, I could actually just hang it on pieces of string that are just put somewhere to keep it out of the way of animals. And what I use is these little paper clips that just bought from a stationery store that are bent into a shape here. So this is the paper clip here, and all I do is I just basically flip one side out so it makes that shape, and then I just straighten out this little section here. This section here will go through the meat. Usually the thickest part of the meat. You just push it through, and this section here will hold onto it. So I just put it in the dryer, hook it in, and it's done and ready to dry. When you hang the meat, you want to make sure that they're not actually touching, so they have to be just far enough away so they're not touching. And you just go through the meat, just hook them all up. And as I said, you put it through the thickest part of the meat that's on the strip.
So the thinnest part is hanging lower.
Got all the meat in the dryer now, so as you can see in there, it's all in there. Now all we have to do is just put it outside and let the wind dry it. Okay, so the meat's been in the dryer for about 4 days now, and it's pretty much done. I'll just take a piece out. Yeah, it's pliable. It's still a little bit moist on the inside, but it's ready. I actually prefer mine to be sort of like cardboard, like very dry. So I'm going to leave this meat in there for a few more days. But so if I take this little piece out, I can open it up. Yeah, you can see it's dried on the inside, mostly dry enough. So yeah, it's not too salty. Probably a little peppery, but I like that. So yeah, about 4 days ready, but I like to keep it in for maybe another 2 to 3 days so it's very dry.